the secret to winning a war is to love something your enemy doesn't like it. My enemy didn't even like being in jail. I loved it. My enemy didn't like being in Haste Division. I loved it. My enemy didn't like having to get up every Monday morning and watch for low-flying pocket knives and low-flying hammers and whether they're going to get attacked that day and who they'd have to attack that day to survive. I loved it, right?
Did you really love it?
Well, I loved the cut and thrust of all this sort of stuff going on in the jail.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, this is more of the show. He's got a manifesto. He's selling. His body language is doing it because this is something he said before. This might even be right from his stage act, Mark, when you were talking about earlier. He conditions the questions. When he says, did you really love it? He says, or when she says that, he goes, I love the and he stammers off a little bit. Interestingly, he's exactly wrong. You don't win wars by loving war. You win wars by being done with it. None of us want to be shot. We all want to shoot the other guy. That's not part of what you get. But I do get his point. He's trying to say I was good at it. I was like a pig, and that's why I was better at it. It's his manifesto, and he's just reinforcing what he's saying. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, totally agree with you. And none of us wants to love war more than the other person. Like General Pat said, it's about making the other person die for their country, not about dying for yours. So this is just a childish display of behavior here to appear tough that you might see in like a 15-year-old. And I think this might be just when he stopped maturing. And you can hear him say, I loved it, right? With this large inhale to make his point. This is selling and not telling. And when she calls him out on it, she says, did you really love it? There's instantaneous backpedaling, rephrasing, confirmation glances back to the interviewer, a loss of fluency, which is when it's more difficult for us to speak, and then a spike in ambiguity. So this has hallmarks of deception and the hallmarks of kind of an immature, tough kid appearance exterior of a tough kid. Mark?
Yeah, I think he's trying to put forward the idea that he's written The Art of War. It's maybe I'm sure it was in the library, and maybe he had a little look at it, and he saw a little bit of it, and when I've got a version of that in my head. I reckon you gotta love things more than anyway. It's a complete mess because his negative of the enemy gesture is the same as his positive of him gesture. What I would expect if it really were an antithesis is you'd have the negative of the enemy and you'd have something different for you, because it's different what's happening. It would be in a strongly different place and a whole different kind of gesture mechanism. He doesn't have any of that. So he's making this stuff up as the idea of being erudite in, the art of war, according to the book of Chopper. Now, what comes out of it for me, though, is that his idea of he loves the cut and thrust, and there's a delay in that. He loves the cut and thrust and all this sort of stuff. So he hasn't got words for it. But in that culmination of not being able to find the words and not being able to find the gestures for it, what I see is quite chaotic gestures. I would put forward what he loves is the chaos of it, because basically everything he does is ultimately antisocial. And all societies are structures. There are no societies that are chaotic. Okay, they are structured in some way. Just some of them look chaotic to us because we're not part of that society. He loves the chaos that comes when you put somebody with an antisocial personality like himself into the rest of society. It's mayhem. When you put that antisocial personality into his society, he's just another criminal who does stuff that criminals have to do, like stick to certain rules, kill somebody if they've fallen out of line, not feel too much about stuff. He's good at the rules of criminal. He's not good at the rules of the rest of society, and he's fallen in love somewhat with that chaos. That's all I got on that one. Scott, what do you think?
I think you guys are right. I think he lives by this. I think this is what he tells everybody. It's his thing to say because he's using these big old illustrators, and it's coming out at a pretty good clip. His volume's up. His diction is about as clear as it's been up to this point. His eye contact is hard and it's direct, and he keeps that happening with her. And when he's doing that arm thing, his arm goes to right and left. When he makes his final point, it goes down at an angle. That's the only differences I've seen there. It goes going back and forth and then down like that. And I think this is the first true excitement we've seen coming out of him. I mean, really from the heart, excited about something, because he's told this story before, be it to a cellmate, be it to a group of people, and like, oh, what do you think? Or when he's on his stage thing or whatever he's doing. I think that's the thing that he sells. And at the same time, it looks like that he didn't waste his life in prison. You know, all that time he spent in prison, it gives the impression that he was in control of it, and that he felt like this about it. He liked doing it. Even though they didn't like it, he was above that, and he liked it, and he liked the thrust and all that stuff in there. I think it's his attempt to be his, like you were saying, Greg, his manifesto or his creed, to go in there and be like, yeah, I was all about prison. Well, what are you going to say? I hated it the whole time. It was horrible. You know, I had my ears cut off. I asked somebody to cut my ear. What are you going to say at that point? So I think you're right. I think all you guys are right. I think this is just something what are you going to do at that point? He's going to try to make the best of it. So to say he was comfortable. We good?
Yeah.
All right.
So what do you got?